Hey, hello everyone, Michael Crouch here, and welcome to this lesson where we're going to be talking about identifying the type of businesses that you would like to approach for consulting. Now, digital marketing consulting is one of the best things you can do right now for 2019, going into 2020, even 2021, because of where we're at in the market. And what I mean by this is when we look at digital sales and marketing consulting, we're looking at what ways we can impact sales and marketing more than anything else. And there's really two things that are going to impact this sales number more than anything. Now, sales is the top line number of any balance sheet because it's the most important number. So when we talk about digital sales and marketing consulting, what we're trying to do is use sales and marketing to impact this top line number more than anything else. Okay? So the reason that sales is the top line number, again, is the most important number. If you don't have sales in the business, you don't have anything. So any company you go to, whether it's a dentist or a chiropractor or a gym or a restaurant or a yoga studio, it doesn't matter the business. This number is going to be the most important number to them no matter what. Okay? So what do you guys think the number one and number two most important factors are to impact this number? Well, I can tell you what I think it is. Number one shouldn't come with any surprise is digital marketing. Okay? Now, the reason digital marketing is so powerful is because it's at a place now where it's just the most powerful platform out there to drive sales to a business. Never before has there been a single platform or a single kind of area of expertise that you can specialize in that can have such a drastic impact on the bottom line. There's companies that have built $100,000 businesses, $1 million businesses, billion-dollar businesses, multi-billion-dollar businesses just purely off of digital marketing and nothing else, okay? Now, the number two thing you might not be as familiar with because it's kind of happening underneath all of our noses, and that's apps, okay? Now, why do I say apps is the number two thing? Well, when you drive digital marketing, what you're doing is you're taking leads, you're taking prospects, and you're driving them to where you want them to go, okay? That might be a landing page, that might be a website, it might be to a phone call, any number of things depending on the business. Where apps come in is what happens after you drive that traffic, right? So after you drive that traffic, what you need is software in the background to help automate that process, okay? Now, in the old days of the internet, the super old days of the internet, like I like to say 3 to 5 years ago, which in the internet, that's the old days of the internet, you didn't really have a very robust app system to use for this kind of thing. Now you had apps on your phone that came out that you started to be able to use for productivity tools and games and things like that. But a lot of people don't realize that app market has expanded so much into industry and into business and into things that not only use on your phone, but things that can actually create revenue. So at the end of the day, what is an app? Okay, if I were to say, please describe an app in 10 words or less, what would you say? Okay, I can say my description would be something like this. I would say it's a piece of easy to access, near perfect code, okay? Meaning that you have a code, okay, that normally would have had to been coded from scratch in the old days of the internet 3 to 5 years ago. Now you have that code already there, coded, ready to use, and it's easy to access, okay? That's really all an app is, okay? So kind of the way I like to picture it is like this. Before, when you had to, let's say, drive digital marketing to some sort of a software to help manage that lead coming in, maybe you'd want to send them a text message and have that be automated, or an automatic email follow-up, or you'd want to do a live call connect so you could get on the phone with somebody, or maybe you wanted to send them to a straight to voicemail message, or maybe you wanted to put them into a CRM system so that you could manage that client in a client management system. Any number of those things had to be coded from scratch, right? Now, with apps, basically, you can access all of those tools instantaneously. So the way I like to describe it is, in the old days, you had to build with individual Lego blocks, okay? Individual Lego blocks is like you're coding from scratch, okay? That's kind of like phase one, and that's what I was doing 5 years ago. I had a #1 app in the App Store, and I was actually having to fly overseas to get that coded. I was 24 hours flying from here on Maui on Air India to New Delhi and different parts of India where I was getting things coded. It was a lot of work, right? So then the next phase came around just a few years ago with tools like the Shopify App Store and Zapier App Store and a lot of these amazing tools out there, where now instead of building with individual Lego blocks, you now have the option in addition to that to be able to have the castle pre-assembled in the box, the pirate ship pre-assembled in the box, the train station pre-assembled in the box, the rocket ship pre-assembled in the box. And if you want to have these tools work together, you just connect them with little Lego bridges, right? So you don't have to build with individual Lego blocks anymore, right? So in the same time it might have taken you just to build the pirate ship, now you can have the pirate ship, the castle, the train station, the rocket ship, you know, the whole city can be built in the same amount of time because you're using apps. Something that might have costed you $25,000 or $50,000 to build and taken you 6 months to a year to build, now you can access for literally pennies on the dollar, and instead of having to wait 6 months to a year to have it built, you can have it within days, if not hours or minutes, okay? So that's really what's exciting, okay? Now, if we want to narrow this down a little bit further, because again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to impact sales for companies, okay? So instead of us doing the work, we want to show the company how they can impact sales and to use sales and marketing to impact this bottom line number. So the key here is to focus in on what are the most powerful tools you can use in each of these areas, okay? So instead of focusing on the entire world of digital marketing, which could be Google and YouTube and Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter and all different sorts of areas we could focus in on, let's focus in on just the most powerful, okay? Which in digital marketing's case is going to be Facebook, right? And so Facebook, and what I mean by Facebook is I mean Facebook Ads Manager is going to control Facebook, it's going to control Instagram, it's going to control Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and all of Facebook's partners. So all of that is managed under just Facebook Ads Manager. And there are plenty of companies that have grown from 6 figures to 7 figures to 8 figures, 9 figures, 10 figures plus just off of Facebook. So this is a powerful enough platform that you can grow any size business just from Facebook, just alone, right? Now, we can learn other areas of digital marketing, but when you have a single area that's so powerful, you don't really need to look elsewhere right away. Because the idea for those of you getting started is you want to be able to impact business quickly, okay? When I got started in print on demand, my very first month selling apparel online, I was actually #1 in the entire industry. I sold about $1.3 million worth of apparel, worth of t-shirts and hoodies. Now, that was crazy at the time because no one had ever seen someone really do $1 million in a month, and here I was doing $1 million in my very first month. Now, how is that possible? Well, I can tell you it was not because I was focusing on the entire area of digital marketing, because that's where a lot of people got lost. They were like, oh, well, what about Pinterest and Twitter and all these different areas? If you wanted to learn all of digital marketing, that would take you quite some time. It might take you months, years definitely probably years to learn every aspect of it, right? But what doesn't take you that long is to focus in on one area and to focus in on the most powerful area to create that revenue. And so by doing that, by staying focused on just a single area of digital marketing, I was able to be #1 in a very trending, very large industry, and I was able to be #1 in my very first month, okay? So that's the same kind of strategy we want to use for digital marketing and consulting, okay? With apps, we've kind of gone through a few phases. So I talked to you guys about phase 1, which is building with individual Lego blocks, okay? Phase 2 is kind of this idea that apps came around. So instead of building with individual Lego blocks, now you have the pirate ship, castle, train station, rocket ship, all pre-assembled in the box. And if you want to use them together, you just connect them with little tiny Lego bridges, okay? Now, there's a third phase that's kind of happened as these apps have evolved. And what that is kind of these super apps, okay? So now what you have is you have apps that have about 10 different apps built into them. It's basically like a Swiss Army knife of apps, okay? So if phase 2 was you have the castle pre-assembled in the box or the pirate ship pre-assembled in the box, as opposed to building with individual Lego blocks, phase 3 is you have basically the whole Lego city pre-assembled, ready to go, okay? So if we focus on this phase 3 area, these super apps or these Swiss Army knife apps that have several apps built into one, we can really simplify things, okay? So specifically for digital marketing and consulting, we're going to talk about an app called High Level. So High Level, what it's going to do is it's going to take the place of about 10 different apps. It's going to take the place of your text message responder, your email autoresponder, your CRM, Live Call Connect, reviews, all different sorts of things that are going to be built into this, okay? So what this is doing is this is allowing you to deliver massive, massive, massive value to your clients in your consulting, but giving them an easy way that they can plug in, right? Because if you had to teach them, let's say phase 1, right? If you were consulting with a company, right? And let's say we were still in kind of phase 1 where you had to build everything with individual Lego blocks and things like a text message autoresponder, an email autoresponder, a CRM system, all of that stuff had to be built from scratch. Or even if it was phase 2 where it was all separate apps, that would be harder to consult with because as you probably know, when you're working with chiropractors or dentists or restaurants or yoga studios or gyms or whatever the niche is, that's their specialty, right? Their specialty isn't doing this kind of thing. So for this to really be effective so that you can make really great revenue and most importantly, they can make really great revenue so that you earn a good reputation and keep these clients around, it has to work and it has to be simple. So the ability to use Facebook along with a super app like High Level is all new to about the last year. And that's why it's so trending. I even have goosebumps talking about it right now because it is so powerful and it's so trending right now. So this is something where you can really plug in and you can deliver massive value, but it doesn't take you much time. To hook these two things together right here as an example, doesn't take long at all. You can actually do it in under an hour if you're fast. In the beginning, it might take you a few hours, but once you get good, you can actually do it in under an hour. To put this in perspective, if you were to have done this just a few years ago and had to do this from scratch, something like this to build would have taken you months and months and months and months and tens of thousands of dollars, okay? So it's just a catastrophic difference. And the other thing to keep in mind is that companies are used to paying for these services as if it did take months and months and months and months and tens of thousands of dollars to build. That's what they're used to because that's the way that it's been for several decades. Dentists that have been around a while, chiropractors, gym owners, they're used to the old way of doing things. So here's the kicker, here's the key. When you can deliver that level of massive value, you can charge the old way because that's what they're used to paying for. You can even charge a little bit less and they're going to be happy, right? Because they're used to paying more for a slower process, but you can deliver it so much faster. So what that means for you is you can make a lot more money for much, much less of your time. The amount of time leverage that you get to the amount of money that you make is better than it's ever been by a mile, okay? So we're gonna jump on my computer a little bit later and we're gonna walk through the specifics of how to do this, but I wanted to walk you guys through kind of where we're at right now and why the timing is so special to right now. This isn't something that existed even 2 or 3 years ago, okay? The ability to market and to sync up a super marketing platform like Facebook with a super app like High Level, and I'll show you guys some other ones too, is literally new to the last 12 months, okay? So this is super exciting, super trending, and just super, super, super profitable, okay? So appreciate you guys watching this. Aloha from Maui, and I will see you guys on the next lesson. All right, guys. Well, welcome to the next part of this lesson where I want to talk a little bit more about this idea of sales being our top line number, right? And having the number one and number two thing to affect that be DM, digital marketing, and 2, apps. Okay. Now, what we talked about earlier is we want to break this down to the least common denominator, right? Because if we're getting started, or even if we're just doing this as a new strategy and we have some knowledge on how to do this, we don't want to attack the entire world of digital marketing. We don't want to attack all the apps out there, right? We want to look and see what are the number one and number two, top things that we can really leverage, right? And so over here, if you were to talk about a number one, you would have Facebook, right? And a number two might be Google, or is definitely Google. These two combined basically form perceivably what the consumers see as 90% of the internet. So I don't mean this as a real number. Obviously, you have Amazon and things like that that make up a large part as well. But as far as for advertising, Facebook, controls Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and all of Facebook's partners, and Google controls Google Search, Google AdSense, all of Google's partners, and YouTube. And so because their partnership network is so vast that literally if you just advertise on these two platforms, it looks perceivably like you control 90% of the internet. Okay, so that's why I say that. On the app side, we talked about high level, right? So high level is going to be that super app, that Swiss Army knife app that we can use both in a consulting agency and in a social media marketing agency, right? And so that's going to be a big one. We're also going to talk about Kajabi, which is going to be a site that you can use for your website to keep in touch with your clients, to do merchant account processing, and to have videos distributed to your clients, because obviously if you're doing consulting, you want to provide some way you can train them one to many, not one to one, so you can actually build the training once and send it out multiple times so that you can scale. And then, having all the Zapier integrations built into Kajabi as well. So these are going to be a couple, what we call Swiss Army knife apps or super apps that we can leverage. And then obviously from a digital marketing perspective, these are going to be the two big boys, Facebook number one and Google number two. Okay, so now that we have that down, I want to talk a little bit about a digital marketing consultant versus having a company that is SMMA, right? Social media marketing agency. And really, there is some gray area here between these. So, both of these we're working with agency clients, whether that be, a dentist, chiropractor, roofer, restaurant, any number of clients that you can reach out to. The biggest difference here is on this side, we're not doing the work, right? So on this side, we are consulting. And on this side, we are implementing. That's really the key difference here. The strategies that we're going to employ could be the same. How these people are going to end up getting leads that are we're working with. All that kind of stuff is very, very similar. The biggest difference here is just consulting versus implementing. Now, when we look at this, if you're a company, right? If you are a prospect, of either a consulting company or a social media marketing company, you're going to look at this as, okay, these guys are either going to say, hey, do it yourself, and we'll put DIY. And over here, we'll put D4Y, which is done for you, right? So if you're pitching a company on a do-it-yourself service, you're going to need some things that can come with that's going to make it look more attractive than over here. So one thing to keep in mind here too is that there may or may not be gray area between these two things, okay? Because there are so many similarities in what we're doing, really the only difference here is consulting versus implementing. It's not just black and white. There's a little bit of gray area here, and what I mean by that is if you're consulting, there's things you can do on the implementation side. So let's say you want to consult with a company and you want to leverage the high-level software that we're going to talk more about. Well, you might want to set that up for them because there's a value for you to get to keep them on the software, right? You could even have a white labeled version of this software where you could be charging anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month. And so if you want to do that, then there's some value for you to set that up for them, to at least do the setup process, okay? So that would be implementation, right? If you're actually setting it up. Now, once they're set up, then it's like, hey, you're using the software, we've got you set up, and now you're making, some sort of residual off of the software. Let's say you're doing anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month just by charging them to use the software. So this to me is like a really nice hybrid of, hey, I want to do this little setup here because I ultimately want to keep them on the software. And so I'm going to consult them on how to use it. I'm going to provide them with video trainings on how to use it. And then ultimately I'm going to get them on the software and I'm going to be hands off, right? Another example is Ty has his profit index. So if you consult with somebody, right, but you want somebody to implement, right? Well, you have an implementation company through Ty called Profit Index that you can refer clients to, right? So you can consult with somebody and you can say, hey, if you want to do these things that I'm telling you to do, well, here's a report on it and here's where you can go. And these guys will be that done for you provider, right? So this is an example of you can be a consulting company. You could do a setup for somebody, get them on a software that's really helpful. And then if they need more done for you service, you can set up a partnership with a company like Profit Index and you can have a way that they can implement. So the real idea here is that you're trying, the reason that we look at doing a digital marketing company versus social media marketing is because scale, right? So the big thing over here that we have that we don't have on the SMMA side as much is really some heavy ability to scale because we don't have to do this, right? Because this is always going to be our number one most time consuming thing over here, implementation, right? And so again, I don't like to look at this as black and white personally because I think there is some gray area, just kind of like we've talked about here. But it is good to kind of get it into your head and to look at, hey, if I really want to scale and create ultimate, time freedom and financial freedom, well, maybe I should look at leaning more on the side of the digital marketing consulting company because of how I can structure it and how I can do things like make residual money off of software where I don't have necessarily as much of my time connected, and I can make money off of referring where, again, I don't have as much of my time connected. So anyway, this is just something I wanted to cover with you guys, and hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next lesson. Aloha.